I'm still trying to figure out how Tyra Banks thought she was cooking in that Netflix America's Next Top Model docuseries, all the while they were setting her up for this hit piece.
Tyra Banks should have known to make sure she had some ability to approve the final cut or something, because they really made her look like a fool in the docuseries that they called Reality Check inside America's Next Top Model.
Somebody didn't have a reality check before it was recorded.
Yeah.
So it's this 3-episode docuseries. It's on Netflix, like we said, and it's kind of reminds people of all of the scandalous and ratchet things that happened on the show. And so one of the interesting things is that, it kind of goes through and it has like the 2 J's, Tyra, if you watch the show. I used to watch the show actually for a few seasons, some of the earlier seasons back in the day. I remember when Adrienne Curry won, and then she went off and she wound up marrying Peter off the Brady Bunch and stuff. And, they had a reality show. This is back in what I would call the dawn of reality shows, like in the early 2000s kind of time period where, you did have the Real World and stuff. And it goes into the history of how, Tyra said, I want to be able to have a model show, right? Because you had American Idol, which had already come out. And so all of these contest type shows were very appealing. And I think they weren't as expensive to make as paying actors for scripted television. But let's be clear, these shows like this, as we know now today, really are scripted, right? There are producers and people behind the scenes that are pulling strings in order to create and tailor the storyline that they want to tell. And that's really kind of what was exposed in this. But one thing that, is kind of the obvious, that all of Tyra Banks's scenes are filmed with her wearing this like bulky kind of trench coat. And she's sitting down and whatever, like everybody else is sitting down. And many of the people who are critiquing this say that she did this to hide her weight gain. Tyra's in her early 50s at this point, or mid 50s, earlier mid 50s. And so, obviously women, as they get older, they gain weight, even if you used to be a supermodel. And so now people kind of fat shame. And this isn't the first time, actually, that Tyra Banks has been fat shamed. She was fat shamed, more than a decade ago, in some, and then she hit back on her TV show and stuff. But it's just ironic that in being in an industry where your looks matter so much and thin was in.
Yeah. But I don't think it's so much as fat shaming, right? Is that, you were documented of calling out people based on their weight. And then now, you are that thing that you were, making basically kind of making fun about. I don't even know how you say it. Insulting people.
You have become that which you used to maybe critique or think or look down upon or be okay with other people insulting, right? Because they had Janice on that show, and Janice used to talk crazy about people who had weight problems, and they highlighted not even weight problems, because the girls that were considered big weren't even big by even the standards of the day. They weren't big, maybe by model standards. If everybody's got to wear a size 2 at a height of 5'10", that's pretty slender,
Not to bring in Pete Hegseth, but that's kind of how it was in the military, though, too, right? People who weren't all that big, you were called fat all the time.
Yeah.
So it's some little similarities there, but it's not as extreme because in that thing you got to be underweight.
Yeah,
it's really what it is.
Yeah. So, so the models share their experience in those areas. But I mean, the thing is, and y'all go to the comments and let us know too, did you watch it? And did you think it was good? To me, it was just a reminder. Like, I don't know that I learned anything that I didn't already know as a watcher of the first few seasons of the show. I think I don't even know what season it was when Eva Marcel was on there, but like, or Eva Pigford at the time was her name. Like, I remember seeing her win, and then maybe I binge watched when they would all come on, and how they would run the whole season. But I didn't, I didn't keep up with it that much after that. So, I remember Takara being on there because obviously, I'm looking at the black girls who are on there to see if they win and rooting for them because, I see myself in them as I watch these types of shows, and everybody wants someone who they can relate to. And especially I was really happy to see when they had so-called plus size models. And, the plus size models that they had were not even really plus size according to the day or even right now. I don't even think they were a size 10. They weren't a size 8. Like, I guess, I don't know. Somebody go to the comments. I know y'all know what size is considered plus size. But yeah, so it's always interesting to me when you get the chance to take a look back at kind of what you were watching, what you were consuming, what you were thinking about it. And I did like the show at the time.
Yeah, so I never watched it. The only thing I know is Eva Marcels and any other and Tyra Banks, of course. But any other person, I don't know their names. I don't know nothing, and I don't remember their names or anything. So that's what it's gonna be.
So, so I guess as far as the docuseries is concerned, was it good? Go to the comments. Let us know if you guys think it was good. The first critique that you said was that it could have been cut down. Like they were just stretching it out. It's 3 episodes of, 40 or so minutes each. It's
kind of like the Diddy thing, right? So with the Diddy, whatever they just done, I don't even remember the name of it. The one they attribute to 50 Cent.
Yeah.
That you're telling the history of the show, but it's a hit piece on it. So it's the work about that thing, which I think should be separate than the piece where you're just highlighting the negatives of it, right? So if either way, you need it to just give me your hour, 30 minutes instead of just keep going on. Like, you want to pull a dirt up, just go from dirt to dirt to dirt. I don't need to know everything about everybody.
Right.
And everything that done happened.
Right. And I mean, it did seem to just be centered around what it's building up to be. Kind of like in any of these other docuseries, they're building up for the dun-dun-dun moment, and they're trying to seem fair as they're building up to it. And to me, what they were building up to is this idea that Tyra Banks is, a villain. So they tried to have, her co-stars, the other judges on the show, seem fair and whatever. And then bloop, 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 each one by one, tells the story of how they felt kind of stabbed in the back by Tyra Banks, right? So there's that. Was it good? Like I was saying, I don't think I learned anything more than I already knew about what was going on.
Yeah, but I did.
Well, you did.
I didn't know anything.
So that's you saying whether you thought. So did you think it was good?
No, but I learned things, right?
Okay. So for me, I didn't learn anything new except that Tyra Banks thought that this was about to be like a shining moment for some reason. And it was a hit piece.
Yeah, but what they was doing was, right, kind of like, I think it was the Nickelodeon one, where it's, young people on TikTok discovered this thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then they're saying it through the lens of the new lens, right?
Right.
And so that kind of same thing happened. They put this on streaming, and then everybody's like, oh my God, this stuff was going on in 2002 or whenever, 2002 to 2007 or whatever. Like, so that's kind of what happened there. And I think they're making these for those people, right? Oh, I seen this on TikTok, so now I'm going to go and watch this.
Yeah, I agree though. It could have been cut down, and we both agreed that the music sucked because the way that they were doing this docuseries was kind of like the way you would do an episode. And so you're trying to build suspense. And there was points where the music was just annoying, kind of like if you think of an MTV documentary. I'm sure some of these people had to have worked on like Road Rules, and those reality shows on MTV, because it just felt like it with the cheesy music that they had in there that became annoying. Music that lasts for a long time while people are talking is annoying. Like, people just want to hear what the person has to say, or the music volume needs to be lower. But that is another critique that I would have. But in the end, the real story here is that this is a hit piece. And the question is whether or not it should have been a hit piece, or whether Tyra really deserved it.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. Want us to break down the movie of your choice? You choose the film, we do the analysis, and you're credited as the executive producer. The link to grab one is in the description. Our deep dive on demand is $75. So one of the most famous clips on the show is where Tyra infamously yells at one of the contestants, and just reams her out, happens to be one of the black girls. And she's like, how dare you? We were rooting for you. And she just totally becomes unhinged. And Tyra does admit in the docuseries that she did go too far. But was this your first time seeing that clip?
Yeah, it was.
What'd you think?
She just totally melted down. I'm like, what in the world is this? Because the thing is, the way the documentary is I started this for all these noble causes. I want to show these representations and this and that. And I'm just nice and gracious. And then you do that. And then it's like, wait, hold on. What is going on here? And then even along the way, you didn't ever say, could be editing choice, that even I knew at some point there was this turn and I turned into a villain. But yeah. So I had never seen that.
Well, I know that I had seen it because it had become kind of a meme and you would see it around here and there. But I remember watching it, and I was just like, whoa, she really, she really just reamed her out in front of everybody and stuff like that. And I felt like it was wrong. And so a lot of the things that Tyra Banks says happened to her during her journey as a black girl at a time where there weren't that many black women who were supermodels, certainly, and were not that many black women who were just in modeling, where your price is just immediately devalued for being black. Like, her brand was coming to say, hey, we cape for all the people who are not in line with what the industry and society says is beautiful, and I'm going to show you this different way of beauty. She even says that in the docuseries. And then you turn around and you begin to behave just like the people that you complained about.
Yeah,
and
that was the whole premise of the show. I'm gonna get you in here. Like, if you're gonna do that, you're kind of a part of that, right? So if us as black people, we're like, hey, I'm gonna show you how to go out there and get a job in the white world. We have to tell you how to unblacken yourself. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So there is no way you'd be like, oh, I'm trying to open this thing up, but then you're trying to get people to go and work within that system. It's just almost impossible.
And then at moments of convenience, you become, black at those moments where, where like you can be black to the world, where you're like, hey girl, the hey girl, the yeah girl, the, 3 snaps to the wind type.
Yeah. Like
stuff.
The white people who go on these black political shows now and try to, get the black audience. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they start, black splaining and start with their black speak.
Twisting their neck and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when they're amongst the white people, they just be like,
yeah, it's wild. So then, we had touched on the fat shaming, but there was one girl who, and it's not, to me, everybody, if Tyra is a villain, everybody who was there is a villain. That's how I feel, because you had producers who were playing mind games, like with the one girl that they were like, oh, she's getting thick. You had Janice, who was one of the judges that was like, she's fat, basically just outright calling her fat, which at least is better than the situation with, you have the producers, this unseen hand that's back there. And then, like, I remember they were talking about, they went to Africa or somewhere, and all of the girls were becoming animals as part of this particular shoot, and they gave her the elephant. Like, they were constantly doing things to play with people's minds too, and setting up scenarios, because the point is for you to break so they can get the most drama out of the situation. And that's what made them good. That's why people were watching for the train wreck.
So it's like the one scene where the girl, they said they edited where she ate the bagel over and over and over, right? Mm-hmm. And it would be funny if because I'm sure the audience just took it as funny. Oh my God, she's just eating so much and she's fat. But like the way that Z-Way does her show and her interviews, right? They are intentionally making the guests look crazy. You know what I'm saying? So everybody is in on the joke. And then the people who go there, they know this is what's going to be done. And then it's good to see that how they try to navigate that to not come across looking so crazy, right? So it's all in fun with everybody involved.
Yeah.
But with this, it's just we're setting people up to make them look crazy and look bad for the enjoyment of the audience. So even the audience too, because the audience didn't just walk away and think this this was bad. They were getting entertainment out of it like we do now when we talk about 50 Cent is a mess, and everybody who's being messy in every video that's on YouTube just talking trash and being messy about people's lives. You know what I'm saying? And then all of that happens. You ingest it all, laugh, kiki, and then you go to watch a documentary like this and you're like, dang, Tyra Banks is bad.
Yeah.
You're all in on it.
Yeah. In addition to the other things related to bodies, because let's just talk about it. If you're being a model, you are showcasing your body. You're going to be showing who you are. You're showcasing clothes or you're showcasing accessories. So your body is important to that. And so there were a couple of the contestants who had, and this particular ones were in the same season, who had teeth that one girl had a gap in her teeth, another girl had kind of little side tooth sticking out at the top, and so there was pressure on them to get their teeth, and I put this in air quotes, fixed. And so the black girl happened to be the one with the gap in her teeth, and then there was a white young lady who had the little tooth on the side. And when they showed what the girl went through at the dentist to get that thing, they had to be like, we're pulling 4 teeth and then we're doing this and then we're doing that, we're going to yank it and it'll look fine, right? And the girl was in so much pain, but she did it because that's just how badly she wanted to win the show. And when they first go to the dentist, the black girl was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. She's like, my gap stays. My gap is my personality. I love my gap, right? And so then Tyra pulls the girl up and threatens to, kick her off the show. And long story short, the girl winds up going back to the dentist and closing her gap. And, years later, as this girl is on the show, as a fully grown woman, she's explaining how, looking back, because this is not her young teen or early 20-year-old self anymore that's impressionable, that hasn't lived life and all of that. This is her looking at herself be exploited and perhaps even victimized for the sake of the money and the profits and the popularity of the show, none of which she got to partake in. And that's another thing that I don't think at the moment, if you were a consumer of these shows like I was, that I was thinking about, geez, they're not really getting any money. I was just kind of thinking about my entertainment, probably like the people who watch all the stuff that's kind of like trash today.
Exactly. But then what happened was later on, they had another contestant. They like, we need to, accent that gap and make her gap wider.
I know. So you made this one girl close her gap. And then they're like, guess what we're going to do for you? We're going to widen your gap.
And just think that that's still sort of like a blemish. Most people see it as, right? A gap. So then just think of you as the model. I'm on the show. They didn't show that perspective of, hey, we're going to, quote, make you look worse, right? Because once you're done with the show, that's really not going to benefit you when you're trying to work in that world or just be viewed as, I guess, beautiful by some people, right? It's looked at more negatively than the way you went into the show.
Right. And you know what I also kind of came away with that I never made the connection of when I was watching it is I feel like all of the girls on the show were vulnerable, like from vulnerable populations in some form or another, whether you were poor and trying to make it or, like the one girl was working at the Walgreens and stuff. Like, so I feel like it was these working class black girls and white girls who were, not part of this establishment, and we're going to take them from where they are and exploit them. And I think that may have been kind of what happened even to the supermodels the people who became actual supermodels. Because from this show, Adrienne Curry, who won the first season, she never became what I would call a supermodel. She was out there and she did get some, work after that. And like I said, she got the reality show. But I think part of that reality show was because she, hooked up with Peter from the Brady Bunch as a grown man, and then they got married and their whole life. So that was what that was, and I don't know if it would have been that way if she hadn't had that relationship. Then the other people who won, Eva Marcel is still famous today.
Yeah,
but
she's like the most famous now, right?
Out of all of them,
she got that show now. She's an actress.
Takara was pretty famous amongst black people. No, Takara's the black girl. And she was the one who was the plus size model. She didn't win, but she got kicked off the show. But she did become popular, and she's what I would call black people famous.
Oh, okay.
We knew her back then at that time, and I think she even posed in magazines like King magazine and stuff. She was a pinup girl for a second too.
Oh,
in
she
addition,
was on my wall in Iraq. I could not. Now I remember because we talked about it while it was on.
Yes.
Because I remembered the name because
I was trying to jog your memory to that.
Yeah, I didn't have. We used to. It was like a contest, right? One person. All right, let me tell y'all how it is since y'all black. This white dude, we had like these kind of trailers that we lived in, and this white dude was my roommate, and he started putting up these white ladies
in Iraq.
In Iraq, he started, from magazines putting white ladies up on the wall, and I'm like, no. You know what I'm saying? So this was kind of my way of, some black is beautiful shit. So then I started putting up pictures and everybody started doing it. And then you just go around and ask everybody for magazines and just try to put up. But I had all black people, all black women on my wall. And I think only one of them name was up there, and it was Takara. I don't
Did you have that
name.
poster of Lil' Kim squatted down that every black dude had?
No,
because
this was only based on magazines I could beg up from people, right?
So she was famous. And then, but I was thinking about like the exploitation and, I think about Cindy Crawford because I, in part of the 90s, went to one of the many colleges I attended. I went to Northern Illinois University, which is in DeKalb, Illinois, and Cindy Crawford is from DeKalb. So that was like a big claim to fame when I went there. They were like, Cindy Crawford is from there. And if you're old enough to know, she was a huge supermodel back in the 90s. And so she was kind of right after, in the 80s, you kind of had Christy Brinkley and a bunch of people. And then in the 90s, you had Cindy Crawford, who was just everywhere. She was married to Richard Gere for a time. And then I think she married, I think his name is Randy Gerber. But anyway, like Gerber is in Gerber baby food. So yeah. And then she wound up having a family and whatever. But I say this to say they go and they find these like small town girls, and they're like, yeah, you'd be good. And then they exploit them. Now, certainly if you get to the heights of a Cindy Crawford or the big names that we know, then they're kind of able to make a huge amount of money. And this is probably one of the few industries where the women make way more money than the men who are models, But anyway, so another thing that they did on this show that I thought, I don't remember watching these at the time, but that I thought was just so tasteless, was they basically did a form of blackface.
A form?
I mean, yeah. I mean, yes, it was, well, it wasn't Al Jolson blackface, but it was darkening of the skin, essentially. Yes. Yeah. And basically the idea was that for a particular photo shoot, they decided that people would be turned into another race. And then if it wasn't enough to do it one time, they came back some seasons later and did it again.
Right. Tyra Banks, she stepped out. She's like, guess what? You're going to switch races.
Like, what?
Then when I was watching this, I'm like, Tyra Banks is that character from Higher Learning.
Ooh, okay,
because
Deja.
She has said something like that, like, don't be a victim and all this stuff. Like, what is you talking about, Deja? And I'm like, dang, John Singleton, that's what you was into?
But yeah, because John Singleton and Tyra Banks were dating at the time that she was in Higher Learning. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of the perspective, right? And so it just is problematic. So I get, I want to say, like, maybe I guess from I'm trying to see it from the artistic perspective. Like, wouldn't it be cool if, but it just gets into, and am I looking at this through my 2026 eyes, right?
Well, what if you looked at it through your 1960 eyes? Like,
bruh, then the answer is no, hell no.
There is something artistic about it. If you can make a black person look Chinese or whatever, a white person look black, there's some art to that, but it's still terrible in the context of society. You know what I'm saying? Just like you can make that art that they like to do with Grok on X, right? And that don't make it okay.
And in the show, this clip that they showed after the girl, so one of the white girls who was turned into a black woman, then she was like, I feel more black, and then it just like you get the accent. And then, so I think it was also in the context of how it was. It'd be different if it was like we're making some broader statement about, I don't know, if it was about passing or something like big that had some societal pressure.
Tropic Thunder, the one they like to
or
bring
Tropic,
up?
with Robert Downey Jr. playing in it. like something, but this, like it, so, but the defense that they give in the docuseries is that, hey, we only did this because we were trying to, be edgy, and this was art.
Yeah,
So,
and we trying to open up the modeling field of black people, so we gonna have white people in blackface.
Bruh. It was just, yeah. So the next thing that most of the hubbub about this is about this one contestant who essentially she, had a boyfriend or whatever when she came into the show. And then they're in Paris and they are drinking, and she talks about how she hadn't had anything to eat or whatever. Some guys come over who had been their tour guides earlier in the day. I don't remember her backstory. Small town girl, So
well, she was supposed to be a virgin, right?
I think so. Y'all go to the comments because one of them was, but I think so.
Because I'm religious, possibly.
Is that the girl? Because I'm confusing the little stories. But
yeah, but see, that's the thing when you're editing the stuff like this, and you don't actually know the people and everybody who's talking not on the screen at the same time,
Yes.
And you weave it all together.
So they had this shoot in Paris, and they had tour guides or whatever who had taken them around. Then they invite the guys who are tour guides back to their place where they're staying in Paris.
They weren't tour guides.
Well,
they were probably just models.
Well, yeah, but they showed them around, whatever. So then they came back to their, to the house that evening. They get to drinking. They're in the hot tub, and baby girl is drunk. And so then one thing leads to another. The cameras record everything. And even when they go into the bathroom and they start doing the do in the bathroom or whatever. And so then
that was in the bathroom?
Yeah,
they did it in the bed.
They did it everywhere. Look, but on the show, they said that when contestants go in the bathroom, they did not go in the bathroom to record them if they went in alone. But because she went in with someone else, then that they had carte blanche to go, to go in and record. So they recorded what happened and whatever. And then the next morning, she's all dramatic about it. She's, and I don't want to glide over the fact that, let's be clear, she was definitely appearing to be very to be drunk. He seemed like he had been drinking too. I don't know if he was drunk or wasn't drunk or whatever. And then you have this big question mark of consent in the air. But what is the question mark when both people have been drinking? Can neither consent? And what if they both do? Then did they take advantage of each other? That question never really came up at the time of the show, but it's a bigger question today because people pay a lot more close attention to that in this moment. At the time, it was just like, oh, can you believe it? She had a boyfriend. It was all about the drama mostly at the time. So then the next morning she's, crying. She's like, I just want to die. She's like really upset about it because she knows she's cheated on her boyfriend. And she also knows kind of like that this isn't something that she's going to be able to get past without him knowing about it too. And so she decides she wants to leave the show. And then they're like, no, you can't have a phone, all of these things, because she wanted to talk to him and all of that. And they said no. And then she decides that she's going to leave the phone. They finally give her a phone. She calls her boyfriend up and she's like, I did something. He's like, well, what did you do? He's all crying and everything on the phone and everything too. And then she's like, it's the worst you could think. He was like, you cheated? And then she was like,
you cheated, you bitch.
And then he was like, you bitch. I was like, oh my gosh, that was the bitch heard around the world. Like and think about it. Like, this is his initial reaction to his girlfriend cheating, which is crazy that he called her that. But I guess that was the emotion that came out in the moment.
You just like, I cheated.
And then he's like, I can't be with you after that. So then she like crawls on the floor and is in the fetal position. And I felt so bad for her I don't know that I felt bad in the moment because I had seen that maybe when I binged the show, but it just was kind of like, all right, well.
But yeah, so see, that's what's bad about how these things are made, right? So we just watch this. This is real people and it's real happening lives to them. But they tell these stories in a way that makes it inevitably funny, right? Just like if you see somebody running and then they fall down the stairs, you're gonna laugh.
They could have broken their neck.
Yeah,
and it makes
exactly.
You laugh. So 20 years ago or whenever it was when I saw this, like I don't recall having like being like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. I can't watch this anymore because this is crazy. And then pointing out all the problematic things from the episode. I was just like, yeah. All right. He called her a B, But today I feel Like, man, like how they got done was dirty.
But I still don't watch TV like that or movies. You know what I'm saying? It just had to be so egregious, like the blackface stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where, you know, because it's just part of the thing. And then afterwards, you could talk about all the stuff that's troubling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I do separate stuff like that. And then I separate the artists too. So it's kind of a 3-tiered sort of a way, at least.
A lot of you miss videos because you're not getting your YouTube notifications. We have fixed this. Subscribe to our mailing list for personalized notifications of all of our videos as they are released across all of our channels. You'll get an email about it, and the link to subscribe is in the description. So after all of these girls do all of these things in this show, through all the seasons, we come to find out through the, you know, what folks were saying in the industry at the time, by proxy through the people who you know, are now long since adults that were on the show, that basically you were blacklisted if you were on America's Next Top Model. So in other words, you weren't getting jobs like that. So after all this, after you'd closed your gap, after you'd have lost your boyfriend, you went through all of these things to try to win the show, you still are never going to be a supermodel because you were on this show. That's like crazy work.
Well, it's just like, hey, you just one of them. You know what I'm saying? You're not like the real model. Because part of the thing too is paying your dues in almost any industry. You ain't pay your dues. You ain't get the 4-year degree and I'm a RN and you know what I'm saying? You got the 2, you know, you're not as respected.
You just got a diploma.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You got on the job training in the 1980s. You know, you're not the same as me.
That's not equivalent to what I got.
Yeah.
You know,
that's basically what it is. I had to come up from nothing and I actually got assaulted a lot of times, right? Because that's wrapped up in the industry that, you know, may make this thing be light work, you know, that was happening on this show.
Yeah.
To compound issues, we had this whole segment where they're in the African jungle village filming a rap video type of thing. I don't know what they were doing, but this black lady, you know, she was dancing with this black man and whatever. I don't know what they were trying to film. And I guess he kept touching her and groping her and just kind of harassing her on the set. And she tried to, you know, report it to everybody. And they just like, man, just get through it. You're trying to ruin this for everybody. It's basically what was the response?
Like, oh, well, you should have figured out another way, even though she like was brave enough to take her stand that she was uncomfortable with the way that she was being touched.
Yeah. And it's just like things that you never hear about. You always say, you know, hey, nobody ever reported this and no pushback. They just accept it in the moment. And then this actually happened. And it's just like, yeah, just get over it. If you want to win this thing, then you're going to have to allow this to happen to you.
Yeah. And then there was another like crazy piece of work where there was one contestant whose mother had, you know, been killed as a result of, you know, a shooting. And they had this particular girl pose as a victim of that in a photo, in a shoot where everybody was like, were they all, they were all
violence.
Yeah, they were all dying. Somebody was dying from something else. And, you know, like, I don't know, OD with a needle sticking out the arm. You know, just craziness.
They were just going
you know,
crazy
again,
on
they had
show.
just jumped the shark. They not even jumped the shark. That's not the right word to use. They had just gone off the deep end, really, with what they were willing to do for the ratings and stuff like that. But, you know, inevitably, every show has its you know, it's like a product, right? It has a life cycle and it's going to have, you know, eventually be mature. And then, you know, it's kind of like, hey, maybe it could be mature and stay that way. Or maybe it's like done, you know, it peaks and then it's done.
I call it the donut hamburger syndrome or effect, right? It's where, you know, you have your restaurant, right? And, you know, you sell what everybody else sells, but then you have to just keep ratcheting it up to the point where you're like, we're making donut hamburgers with melted cheese on the top.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's how all the shows do, even the scripted shows, right? You know, season 1's good. Season 2 might still be good by season 3 or whatever, season 911 or whatever that show is with Angela Bassett. She's in space. You know what I'm saying? As an EMT or whatever she is, like they just keep going further and further off the deep end, and you get this with the car Fast and the Furious, right?
Oh,
yeah, talking about
we're just wild.
Yeah.
Well, and dare I say, when it comes to art, that trying to extend the life for the sake of monetary gain ruins the art in the end. We have to know when enough is enough. You know, it's just like a great and amazing movie where, hey, we don't need a sequel just because this movie sold out. And like Sinners is a good example of that. Sinners did amazingly. We didn't need a Sinners, and we don't need a Sinners 2. I would hope they would, you know, well, Ryan Coogler says he wouldn't do it, but there are a lot of people who would have been licking their chops to be able to do that just for the money, and it would ruin the story.
But what makes movies and shows good, right? It's that these actors and models have to be portrayed in these ways that they were doing on this show, right? So that's sort of the irony. Sinners is good because that biracial girl, I forgot her name.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She looking like a ghoul, or you know what I'm saying? And looking
she's
dead
the one
or
starts turning
undead.
them. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the only example I have from this film. But like in the other examples, we praise those scenes where somebody get their head blown off and then how the actor died and how they just laying there looking dead. You'd like, ooh, great job, makeup, great job, actor, great job, everybody. But on this show, they were, quote, prepping for being able to do that out in the world, right? We talked about the reactions to Deja dying in Higher Learning too.
We'll link that video in the description.
Exactly. And that's what Tyra Banks did in that film. She had to look that part.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And she got the acting gig basically because of having been a model.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
So, you know, you kind of get that whole double tug going on, and no diddy. So
the question that I have now, and we have to talk about Tyra Banks' portrayal in this docuseries, and was she portrayed purposely in a bad light? Was she actually guilty of things? And should she be viewed as a villain? I mean, this is multiple questions, but it's all kind of wrapped up in the same overall idea.
Yeah.
So do you think they purposely portrayed her in a bad light?
Well, so first we got to talk about how it ended, right?
Okay, so how did it end?
It ends, you know, she went up there and thinking she gonna clear her name and stuff. We looking at this in 2020 lens and all this, and we all did stuff wrong. But, you know, by the end, it's like, yes, we all need to take accountability and do this and that. And, you know, you see something wrong, you know, so she tried to wrap it up all nice in a bow, right? But then they basically played, you know, a clip from after she goes through her spiel. They play some other model who just be like, man, nobody believe all that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And then that's kind of how they end the documentary, right? So, yes, that's what they wanted to do. They went in trying to make her look bad. She is bad because of the things that were done. You can't go in and be like, this is my show, I'm creator of the show, and then
not take
I can't take accountability from what the judges and everything else
Because there were a couple of times where she was like, well, you know, I don't deal in filming. I don't deal in that aspect of production. That's not me. That's me. Right. It's you if you in charge of this whole thing and your name is on the show, whether you were there or not at that moment. Right. You are responsible.
And then part of it is the whole power thing, right? So I did mention, you know, people on YouTube and the viewer and stuff. That's not the same. You don't have the same culpability in that as the makers and the people who have the power, like Tyra Banks. Like even just somebody on YouTube who talk about gossip and true crime, sort of stuff in a salacious way. You still are not. You have your autonomy, but you're not as culpable because you're just in a rat race like everybody else. But you're putting on this big show that's reaching everybody knowingly and with all your resources. Yeah. Through the exploitation of people directly. That's very different. But they also tried to take some of that off of the judges.
Yes.
Which I didn't like.
Yes. Because, you know, they talked crazy. I mean, which is true about Janice Dickinson, you know, on the show. Like Janice was
they made
insane.
Her look bad.
They made Janice look really bad. But Janice was really bad. Like she was very blunt and she was like, hey, you're too fat. You need to do this. Like she was giving that old school modelly. Yes, she was the Simon Cowell of the show. And in order for a show to really work, you did actually need that type of drama. Like if this is the show you are doing, they cast her well, right? But she still was a villain. But back in the day, we saw Janice as the villain. We didn't see Tyra as the villain back in the day. And now I think what Tyra didn't expect was to be viewed as the villain in 2026.
What about the Jays?
The Jays. Okay. So you have Miss J, that's that's the black guy, and who is the tall black guy. And he would teach them how to walk and everything. You had him and he kind of gave his perspective, but it's clear that he and Jay Manuel, I think, the other Jay, they're not cool with Tyra like that anymore. Whereas they
stayed there the whole time.
Really good friends. Well, Jay Manuel says he tried to leave.
And then he came back.
He wasn't allowed to really leave.
So trying to make it look like he's good.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but the thing is, Tyra Banks is no more bad than anybody else who participated in the party. And y'all all knew what was happening at the time. And it's just like any other time you make a deal with the devil, right? It's like you're making the deal, you're thinking that you're all good, and nobody, including probably the one who seemed the most favorable to me, I don't forgot his name, but the photographer, right? Who seemed like his personality was not harsh, and he was very vanilla, and even he got his, the axe one day and wasn't expecting it. But you have done the deal with the devil, and someday your number is coming up too.
Yeah, it's like,
and none of them seem to expect that, including Tyra.
Yeah, it's like the good cop who's standing around and you're seeing everybody else do this thing, and then it just goes on. Why are you still there, bro? Mm-hmm. You're just like them. You're helping them. You put them in a car all bloody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, go on.
Right. So I agree completely that, and this goes back to the question of, okay, was Tyra, it was like everything bad about the show, let's try to heap it onto her, which makes me go, okay, Tyra, surely you were smart enough to recognize that they were about to pin all this on you. If you just had your ear to the ground a little bit, if you had friends, if I got a friend and Tyra is my friend, I'm like, girl, I don't think you really want to do a docuseries in 2026. Have you seen the other docuseries that are out? Have you seen how no matter what, the person who was the big name is going to become the villain? There will be a villain and a victim, and then there's no way that you could paint Tyra Banks as the victim in this. So it ain't gonna be good for you, girl. I would tell them because see, imagine without Tyra Banks on this, then it is obviously a hit piece. Right. But then with her participation, it just made you look like a delusional fool.
But she's still an executive producer, I think. So
but did you get final cut? Because I just can't imagine. Or maybe you're so delusional you thought it was gonna go another way.
Or you just don't care too, right? Some people don't care.
You said, give me my check.
Give me my check. It may be bad a little while, but I still got my money, and my career isn't
and I can live in my bubble. Yeah.
And you know how people do, like every time somebody have a criticism of some celebrity or some social media influencer,
I'm rich.
Yeah, they be like, but you broke.
Yeah.
Like, I got money. That's it. That's all they really care about.
Like, the thing is, I liked Tyra Banks then. I respect where she had what it took to be one of the first supermodels. I mean, of course we had Iman, and of course we had black ones, yes. Naomi Campbell. There were others, Beverly Johnson. There were others who came before her. But the point is, by the time she came, we still wasn't good and plenty in the industry, you see? And so I don't think it was easy. I do think it was harder for her than it would have been for other people. And so I respect her gangster to be able to get through that at the time. But, some self-reflection has to happen. And I do think that she is a bit delusional in her perspective.
That was kind of her speech at the end, though, right? It was just
we all have to take responsibility.
We got to take responsibility, done wrong, blah, 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 right?
It just didn't play well. It just didn't play well.
All right. So one thing that people did say, and I was thinking, she is all the way a villain. Because it's just how she's sitting there just straight lying, being, you know what I'm saying? Acting like this stuff wasn't bad. Like, so I choose
to believe that she's delusional as opposed to she's just a straight out liar who's trying to, gaslight us all. I think that she thinks that I think she's like, I took responsibility for what I did. I did it. And so I'm not a villain, and I'm taking responsibility, and I'm saying we all should take responsibility. That's what I think Tyra Banks is doing.
When you say, that's just editing when you know it ain't. And, I'm going to talk to old boy who I had beef with and whatever just some other time. No, that ain't delusion. That's you being evil with a straight face.
So, yeah. And so let's talk about Eva Marcel, right? Because we saw her in an interview, and I can't remember who was interviewing her. was it I don't know, but she was making her rounds recently, and it was this month, February of 2026, and one of the daytime shows, something. She was being interviewed, and they were like, "So tell us about," maybe it was the Today show, and they were like, "Tell us about, you got your start on an America's Next Top Model." When I tell you, Eva was mad that she was like, "Every time I have an interview, they bring that up." Well, that's why we know you, Eva. And those of us who are old enough to know,
To be fair, she didn't say it like that.
Well, but that's and it just went downhill from there. And so she made her statement about the show, which was that I am grateful for the opportunity. I am grateful for all that it's done, and I have done 152 things since then. Or she knew the exact number of roles that she had and played since she was on there, and it was 152, I think it was, or something like that. And so she just didn't want to be asked about it. And she also did say she was not asked to be in the show. And maybe you did dodge a bullet by not having to be. You know what I'm saying? They showed a couple of little clips from you.
Yeah. So
and that was it. You dodged a bullet, girl.
That's just what they do, right?
But I also think they didn't want to have anybody who could possibly be sympathetic to Tyra.
Yeah, but
either.
So she's also the most successful off of there, right? It's sort of like the movie Kids, or is it The Kids? I think it's Kids. Right? There was this documentary, We Were Once Kids, that talk about how it was made and the exploitation and that. But you ain't going to see Rosario Dawson in there. She's big. She's beyond that. And whatever happened, it's that happened. I'm big. And you know what I'm saying? I'm kind of shielded from it, and I don't want to be reminded of it.
And if I was going to say, it's worth it maybe in your mind when you actually get the brass ring at the end of it.
Right, because it taints your life in a sense, right? Yeah. If I got my comeuppance off of R. Kelly, don't ask me about that and what he was doing. This is why Drea Kelly name is Kelly. You know what I'm saying? Like, or that's just how it is. Hey, I did whatever. I paid my dues. Don't taint my life. And then all the people from the Cosby Show and all this, right?
Yeah.
We want all that stuff written down. Just don't bring it up, because that is who I am. That's a part of my identity now. So if that's tainted, then it inevitably taints me in some twisted way.
Yeah.
Because like we're saying, everybody was there. Everybody saw what was going on. And for at least 15 years, right? I don't know how, let's just say anywhere from 5 to 25 to 20 years, nobody said anything.
Right.
In a sense.
Or it was like this maybe industry secret, but like regular people didn't know and nobody would speak on it. So I did find that interesting, the whole Eva Marcel angle, and how she was like, don't nobody say nothing bad about Miss Jenkins. And
then what if you went to therapy and wrote all this, worked all this stuff out, and then they bring it up, and now you gotta be like, yeah, y'all want me to start talking about all this stuff that happened to me.
I felt kind of bad a little bit for like all of the girls that I saw and who are now women on the show who just look like, because I'm saying to myself, what would make me, even if I had gone through this, what would make me in 2025 be willing to do this show, to do this?
It's crazy because I don't think they be trying to pay. They be making all this money talking about we don't pay people for interviews. Man, you done lost your mind.
That part.
That's further exploitation.
So my final thoughts on it really is just Tyra Banks, to me, was kind of doing too much, but she was also an easy target at the same time for this docuseries, and she made her bed. Like, she was willing to do almost anything at anybody's expense back then to make and keep that show successful.
Yeah, she's the face and she's the big name too. Nobody cares if it's somebody we don't. No.
And you got the money in the end. You did it for the money, and you got the money and the fame and the notoriety, and the other people who aided and abetted got something, and then you get these girls who just essentially were exploited.
Is it because I'm black? But why is it okay? What's his name? Seal Johnson. Is it because I'm black, or is it that all the big hit pieces is against black people? Where's the big white ones? I guess the Nickelodeon.
Well, the Nickelodeon one. There's Epstein.
I guess. Nobody knew Epstein. But let's be real.
Yeah, so there's that aspect of things too. But I will say, in fairness, I pay attention more to the stuff with black people.
Yeah,
so
that's why
I don't know if my view might also just not be so accurate. For that reason, because I tend to watch more stuff with black people. But just so you guys
the algorithm only serves black stuff to black people. So
that is true about the algorithm. And just so you guys do know, we do have merch. Y'all need to get in there and dig in and get some merch. We have Axiom Amnesia logo, almost everything, especially the hoodie. This hoodie is so cute to me. And We also have stuff with slogans on it. So just take a look and hit the description for the link. So in the end, like, was this worthwhile to you to watch?
Oh man, it was, I don't know. It was just too much. Like, just trim this stuff down. You know, I guess it was worth it. I don't know if it
could have been
benefits
40
me.
minutes. It could have been 1 hour. It could have been 1 hour. We did not need all these episodes.
Does it benefit society in a way?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess some people would be like, these people deserve to have their stories out, but do they deserve to have their stories out more than anybody else who had things happen to them?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this did not advance really anything. And if you think it did advance something, go to the comments and let us know. Only thing it lets you know is if you were not alive during this time or you were unaware, it lets you know how whack stuff was back then, or how things that would be deemed acceptable back then that are no longer acceptable and would no longer be tolerated, and that you would be canceled for.
And if you made it this far, type "how dare you" in the comments, so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now, because you'll be able to get links so you can watch all of the stuff that you missed back here on YouTube. And also visit axiom.app where you can get our merch.